Okay, moving on to the next segment of today's show. I obviously wanted to get a little bit more into what happened to Dak Prescott. And the other night, when I was watching the game between the Cowboys and the Giants, it was pretty crazy because Dak was just playing so well. The Cowboys and Giants were going back and forth. It was one of the more exciting games that, to be honest with you, I've really seen all season. And all of a sudden, the game just took a dramatic turn about midway through the third quarter when Dak Prescott was running for a first down. He's there. He sits down after he gets hit. He won't get up. And then all of a sudden you hear Tony Romo say, "Oh, wow, I really hope that's not a cramp." And I kind of knew right away it wasn't a cramp when Dak was sitting down, holding his ankle and immediately calling the medical team over. And it's super rough to see. Obviously, you guys know these players just worked so hard to get to the point that they are in today. And we're going to get into everything about this. I think that there are a lot of very fascinating things that this injury to Dak Prescott could possibly lead to, and it was super rough to see. So before I start talking about anything about the future of the Dallas Cowboys, I just wanted to wish Dak Prescott a speedy recovery, and I just wanted to say, Dak, we're all rooting for you. You're one of the more inspirational players in the league. You could clearly tell how much his injury affected his teammates. You guys saw all the Cowboys getting on a knee. A couple were crying. A couple of them just didn't really have any look on their face because they really didn't believe what happened. You also saw Jerry Jones in the press box, hugging Stephen Jones' wife because they all knew what was about to go on. And once again, just super rough to see. I think sometimes not a lot of people realize when they watch the NFL that there are injuries and then there are injuries. And I think we saw the second option with Dak Prescott on Sunday. So I hope Dak recovers okay. He just had his surgery. He's now home recovering. So once again, we're thinking about you, Dak. I hope you're all well. And when you look at this situation, it's super fascinating because you guys know Dak Prescott was a free agent this past offseason, and the Cowboys offered him like a 5-year, $34 million deal, $100 million guaranteed, and he decided to bet on himself. And I'm not going to lie with you guys. I think when we all heard that Dak Prescott was going to do this, not everyone agreed with it, not everyone disagreed with it, but we could all agree on one specific component of it, and that is that this guy is just super durable. He doesn't miss any games, and he's a leader. You could really tell that all of his teammates really enjoy playing with him. And at the same time, when you look at what happened, it's obviously now easier to say, he didn't make the right call. He should have just taken the money instead of playing on the 1-year franchise tag. And I think the first question I want to ask you guys is, where exactly do the Dallas Cowboys go from here? Because you guys know Dak Prescott has been in the league. This is his 5th year. And really, since he's entered the league, he's been pretty consistent. He hasn't missed a game. He's put up pretty solid numbers every year. And I think this year and last year, especially the last 2 years, so the first 4 games of this year and then all of last year, Dak Prescott was playing, some of the best football I've ever seen him play throughout his career. And it's going to be very interesting to see, where did the Cowboys decide to go from here? Is he going to be the same player that he was before the injury? Is he going to be anywhere close to that? If not, and I think when you look at the numbers Dak Prescott originally for the first 4 games of this season was putting up, it would be hard to imagine that if he didn't get hurt, this would be the best season of his career. When you look at his total stats throughout these first 4 games, he was throwing at 68% completion percentage. He had about 2,000 yards, 9 touchdowns, 4 picks. So he was having, which was supposed to be, and if it were to continue, the best statistical season of his career. And now, even though this may be a really tough conversation to have, we have to have it. What is going to happen with this contract? This contract situation is a real big component of why I think this injury is so significant to not only Dak Prescott, not only the Dallas Cowboys, but around the National Football League. I'm not going to lie. During the offseason, when I heard the Dallas Cowboys and Dak Prescott and everything that's been going on between them, I was kind of in the boat of, wow, even though I think Dak Prescott is the 8th to I would say 8th to 12th best quarterback in the league, somewhere in that range, even though he's in that range, I don't know if he's worth that money just because I don't know if he's a game changer. As good of a career as Dak Prescott has had, I think it's easy to talk about the situation that he's been put in. Besides this year, he's had one of the best offensive lines, one of the best wide receiving cores in the league really consistently, playing with Dez Bryant and Amari Cooper, Michael Gallup, CD Lamb now, guys like that. And I just think that in order for Dak Prescott to succeed, he needed everything to be really good around him. So with that being said, I was kind of the boat of, I think the Cowboys should probably pay him, but I'm not going to blame them not if they don't, because if they don't, they're clearly just showing that they don't believe in his ability to be their franchise quarterback of the future. And I kind of just thought if the Cowboys had the option to pay Dak like a boatload of money or get like a Cam Newton to be the starter for a cheap contract, I wasn't opposed to the Cowboys doing that at all. And I get why he bet on himself. This is a guy that is super durable. This is a guy that was a fourth-round pick who has worked super hard to get to the point that he is at today. You know, this guy was in the same draft class as Carson Wentz, as Jared Goff, and he has just as an impressive as a resume, if not a bigger resume than both of those guys, considering, you know, everything he has done throughout his career. So I give Dak credit for where he's gotten to so far in his career, and once again, it's just super upsetting to see this happen. But when you look at the future of the Dallas Cowboys, I think Andy Dalton is one of the 2 or 3 best backups in the league. When you look at resumes of all of the current backup quarterbacks, Andy Dalton may have the best one. This is a guy that has led the Cincinnati Bengals to division championships. And you guys know the Cincinnati Bengals, when you're playing for that franchise, it is not easy to win at all. And somehow, some way, Andy Dalton had like a 4 or 5 year stretch of being one of the better, more consistent quarterbacks in the league. And I think when you look at how he's going to do with this Dallas Cowboy team, to be honest, when I was watching the game on Sunday, obviously I was still just shaken up thinking about the Dak Prescott injury, and really the whole game just wasn't the same since that point. But I did feel okay about Andy Dalton coming into the game. Maybe it was just because of the fact that they were playing the New York Giants, who you guys know are just not a very good football team right now. And Andy Dalton just controlled the game, used his weapons to his advantage, and was able to get the job done. I think for me, the key component of being a good backup quarterback is this. If your starting quarterback gets hurt, and I don't mean an injury like Dak Prescott, right, where he's out for the season. I mean an injury like Jimmy Garoppolo or a quarterback that's out like 3 or 4 weeks, right? In order for me to consider you a good backup quarterback, just go 2-2 in that stretch. Hold the fort down, and you could get the job done. Now, obviously, this is a little bit of a different situation because Dak Prescott is out for the season, but I think when it comes to the overall ability of the backup quarterback position, they could be in a solid spot here because they won on Sunday, which now makes them 2-3. And I know that really doesn't sound good at all, but I think you have to look at that record with some context when you consider the fact that right now the NFC East is just not a very good division, and I totally understand the fact that the Philadelphia Eagles have been playing a little bit better football lately. When they went into San Francisco and got the win, they were pretty competitive during their road game against the Pittsburgh Steelers. So I think when you look at Andy Dalton, he could really keep them afloat. And in this NFC East, that may just be enough to win the division. And he has one of the best running backs in the league in Ezekiel Elliott. To be honest, he's probably a little overpaid right now. The Cowboys need him to be the running back that just takes over games. And he's been solid so far this season, but we haven't seen that. Maybe the injury to Dak Prescott finally makes Zeke Elliott realize, all right, it's now my team. It's now my time to step up. Here we go. They also have one of the best receiving cores in the league, Amari Cooper, Michael Gallup, who is making play after play on Sunday, and CD Lamb. It seems to me that like every time I watch the Dallas Cowboys play, CD Lamb just starts trending on Twitter and everyone just says how good of a player he is. You know, it's obviously still super early when you look at ranking the best wide receivers in this year's draft class. We saw what Henry Ruggs and the Raiders were able to do yesterday. We've seen Justin Jefferson show some flashes. There are some really good wide receivers in this draft class. And I think when you look at CD Lamb, he right now is making a case to be at the top of this list. And the Cowboys defense as well. They obviously didn't play well at all against the New York Giants, I just have to say this. There's too much talent on this Dallas Cowboy defense for them to be this bad. DeMarcus Lawrence has finally woken up a little bit. You guys remember a couple years ago, the Dallas Cowboys actually decided to pay him. And really, since he got that money, the contract hasn't worked out. But so far this season, he's been playing some good football. Aldon Smith as well. I think their secondary needs to get healthy. And Xavier Woods should be cut a couple after last week, the comments he made regarding, effort on the field and stuff. And when you look at Dallas and what they're going to do with Dak Prescott in this whole situation next offseason, the number one question is this. Does Jerry Jones want to pay him? And I think this is super fascinating. It's just, unfortunately, it came from a really bad situation. I think there's a chance that Jerry Jones gives him good change on an incentive-led contract. And I think there are many questions here. Like, let's just say, even after this horrific injury, Dak Prescott says, all right, even though I got hurt, I still really believe in myself. I still really believe in my ability. And I believe that if I go to free agency, a team will pay me much more money than the Dallas Cowboys are about to pay me right now. It's going to be interesting to see what road that leads both sides on. If Andy Dalton sucks and they bomb, then do they draft someone? I don't know. I think that could be another possibility that comes up here. The main takeaway I have from all this injury and the whole game is just two things. Number one, obviously, you want Dak Prescott to be okay. You hope he recovers well. But also, if Andy Dalton sucks and they're just not good, where do they go from here? Because I think going into this season, it was one of the more important off seasons for Jerry Jones and the Dallas Cowboys, just because they had an opportunity to find some answers. They had a first-year head coach in Mike McCarthy, who right now, let's just face it, isn't a very good coach right now. They had a bunch of talent, and even with that being said, a quarterback that was about to hit the free agent market. It's easy to say right now that Dak should have taken that money, but he bet on himself. And for the past 4 years, that looked like to be a good move. Unfortunately, it just didn't work out. And once again, I really hope Dak Prescott is okay. I hope he's recovering as soon as possible. Speedy recovery. And we'll be moving on to the next segment.